What's going on, my brother?
What's going on? Good afternoon, man. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well here with you again this fantastic Wednesday. I can't wait to get going with this episode. It's I got to tell everybody it's dear and near to my heart.
Right. It is dear and near to both of our hearts.
Hmm.
It's a tough subject, but we have the perfect person to speak about it. Is just the way I'm going to describe it. Um, I don't know that there's another person that I can think of that has fought and has not only fought for herself, but really and truly been there for many other people. We're going to get into all the details of that, but it's near and dear to our heart because of mom.
Hmm.
We had, and what's funny is I actually had been wanting to ask her to the show for a while, but it's just been, I guess we weren't ready is the best way to say it.
Yeah,
Do you agree?
yeah, I absolutely agree. I wouldn't have been able to do this, at any time last year for sure. And then there's a lot of things that go into podcasting that people like all the behind the scenes stuff that we got to do. And I got to tell you, I did when you first told me that we were ready to go with this show. I think I even texted you back that it hit me hard when I read her story.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last 2 days, I've been doing a lot of research behind her book, and we're gonna talk about that. But it's really amazing, her story and what she's accomplished. And I don't know, I've been able to sit here and talk about it even a month ago. So it did take me literally the whole week to first embrace it, right? To just embrace doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
what did it? I prayed every night, and we're dedicating the show to my mom,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that if she was still here with us, she would absolutely would be glued to our show.
Absolutely. Every time we came on, she would be there, and we have absolutely no doubt about that. Um, so let's just get into it because we have a lot to talk about and discuss. So with that, my name is Javier, and we are problems.
And my name is Jorge, and opportunities. Want to thank everybody for being with us tonight. Like my brother mentioned, this is a very sensitive topic, and it definitely will be the conversation. We will be. It's very near to our hearts. But that's what our podcast is all about, right? Problems and opportunities, and definitely a big problem. When mom was here, we lived very close to the topic, the subject this evening, and now ironically enough, in this podcast, we get to talk about it in an opportunistic way. We really hope, my brother and I, that everybody watching tonight can take away at least one or two things. It doesn't have to be what we're talking about. It could just pretty much be anything in life that you're facing, encountering, health wise, and then you understand how to give it that positive spin so you can make your life better, and just pretty much become somebody else that's not taking you through that dark tunnel. We always are very excited to have you every Wednesday that we do this podcast. Every problem does not have to stay a problem. You can transition it into an opportunity, and that's exactly what we hope to accomplish tonight. So, with that, brother.
Yeah, and those of you watching, los que nos estén escuchando, questions, comments, we are watching the feed, and we will certainly ask and all that. But anyway, real excited to introduce our guests tonight because we go way back. This is for people who watch our show. She is a let's just call it a Socorro. Socorro High School, but Socorro person, one from the barrio, as we say sometime. Um, I'm class of '91. She was a couple of classes behind me, officially class of '92. So 1 year actually. She just told us she pushed it through another year earlier. But so back we've known each other for a long time. The beauty of social media was that when we were all on social media, I was able to follow her career. And I don't want to misspeak, but I know she was in the field of beauty, specifically to do with well, I'm gonna just murder this, but hair and makeup and things like that, fashion. Well, maybe not fashion, but I followed her. I know she was a public speaker. I know she was helping even then many others, and then along the way, she got some news that changed her life. It's a challenge for the reasons we've talked about, but also um, we we don't always like to talk about our health, our own health, even though that taking care of it is the really the most important thing we should do. It's our temple. It's the one shot we have at this life, and like you said, brother, we want to really let her give the people the positive spin on what it is to receive news like she did, and then many years later, be doing what she's doing because she completely had to pivot 180 degrees. So I'm just going to let her introduce herself, and I want to let the people help me welcome Jessica Bustamante-Soto tonight. We're so excited to have her tonight.
Jessica,
How are you?
welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is amazing. And I'm so glad to be here and excited to be here doing this podcast with you guys. I know that this is a very sensitive topic to both of you. And we go back, we're from Socorro, same barrio, you guys now
We have the
live
gang
in
signs.
I know, right? You guys
Loco, as they call it.
you live in a different city now, and so do
Yeah.
I.
Uh-huh.
But thanks to social media, we're still able to connect.
Yeah, that is correct. A couple of years ago, and the older I get, the more I'm able to remember time. I want to say 2 3 years ago. Sometimes when I say that, it's been 7 years. Sometimes when I say it's been 7 years, it's been like 6 months. But you guys came here for a Raiders game, meaning Raiders and Cowboys, and
Yeah.
we ended up meeting for dinner, and it was just the greatest thing because after all those years, we were able to catch up, and that's where you started telling us a lot of the things you're going to share tonight. Do you remember what year that was?
That was
Oh my,
96.
was
96.
it?
Well, 95, but I remember because I'm a big Cowboys fan. And so,
Oh my goodness.
that was at the Sun Bowl, and that was the last year the Cowboys won the Super Bowl.
No,
Huh.
no, no. I'm sorry.
No,
She
no.
came here to the new
Yes.
stadium. Yeah,
Oh,
she
to
came.
Arlington. I
Yeah,
thought too.
yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I
Sorry.
was thinking El Paso.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, no, no,
no.
no, no, no. I went there to Arlington and I saw the Dallas Cowboy game. Yes,
Right,
it was.
right,
I want to say maybe 2016 or 17, I believe.
right,
Ah,
right.
okay.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It hasn't been long, and we got to meet for dinner. It was great.
That's
And
awesome.
so, again, because of social media, we were able to connect that way. But Jessica, let's. I didn't really do justice to your beginnings. Talk to us about, after Socorro, what happened, and what's been your life. Tell us about it.
Well, I was a complete platform artist. I had my salon. I was a salon owner. I had workers. I would train other hairdressers on the latest like colors, trends, and haircuts for every year. I was working for a huge manufacturer where I was traveling, all the United States, and I had big dreams. I was on my way to probably being like the next platform artist for Hollywood. And in 2014, I got a diagnosis of breast cancer, which completely, changed my life. Not only did I get the diagnosis in 2014, but when they gave me my diagnosis, they told me that literally I was terminal. It was a stage 4. They gave me 1 year to live, Javier. That was back then in 2014 with chemotherapy that would be for the rest of my life.
Wow.
So that ended my career. And that was really hard for me because I was like, when you first get diagnosed, I just got to put it out there for people, is that, you don't feel sick. You don't feel pain. You don't feel anything. All you know is, okay, something's not right. And then they give you the news that you're, from a perfect, dreams and ambitions to, you're terminal. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, this can't be. And the
Jessica,
doctors,
I want to quickly interrupt you right there. I'm so sorry. I wanted to say that right now when you mentioned that, when you were diagnosed, so we went through it with my mom as well. She was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and we were there when the doctor told her that, so unfortunately we know the feeling, right? But
right.
what the point I wanted to make is that I strongly feel that the diagnosis, the news of the diagnosis, has a lot to do with the deterioration of your body. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I deal with so many patients on the daily that inbox me, especially now that I became a book author in 2020 to put out my story. And so many people get a hold of me, whether it's via email, whether it's through my podcast, whether it's through, Facebook. Somehow people get a hold of me and they're like in a desperate situation. They're like, Jessica, I just found out, I have this diagnosis and it's terminal, or it's a stage 3 or 4. Where do I start? What do I do? And what's really important, guys, is that people need to know, what happens when it comes to cancer, because we know about it, but nobody knows what the person goes through, what you go through as a family once you are diagnosed, what happens. Everybody just knows that, okay, the person is sick, but then what happens in the in between? There's so much to cancer that people do not discuss. For example, I am a 4-time leading patient in 4 huge hospitals, different hospitals throughout the United States. And not one, as a terminal patient, not one has ever given me a nutrition class. Ask yourselves, how can that be if there's so much to cancer when it comes to nutrition? I believe with all my heart that the body can heal itself with just nutrition, depending on where you are in your diagnosis. But if we don't know what to do, you're doing the same bad habits that got you sick in the first place.
Yes.
Right.
And nobody is telling us this is the cause, this is the reason, you need to change. All they do is, sad to say, they pump you with medicine. And if it works, then you go into a remission. But if you don't change your bad habits, within 4, 5, 10 years, cancer comes back and they say, oh, it's back. It just happened to be bad luck. No, it's not. It's the fact that we weren't educated.
Well, I got a better one for you, and you correct me if I'm wrong. As far as I completely agree with your nutrition ideal, by the way, but I think one of the things that I never noticed, and I'm just realizing this today, well, now that my mom isn't here, but one of the things that I came to realize is that when somebody gets diagnosed with cancer, you're right. First thing is chemotherapy, doctor, radiation, all that stuff that we already know, right? But nobody talks about let's get therapy for mental health, mental health for the patient, mental health for the family.
Correct.
So what happens is my mom, she was also stage 4, right? And they told her you're only, after she had her surgery, this will probably go for about 4.5 years at best. And unfortunately, that was true. But I think about it and I said, what about her mental health and stability? What about our mental health? Now I'm seeing the consequences of that. You know what I mean?
I do understand. And I agree with you 100%. For that reason, this is why I decided to start my podcast and also do my book, because a lot of my segments on my episodes, I do a lot of spiritual strengthening, because a lot of people don't have faith. They don't even know what to believe in, or maybe you've been through so much in your life, storms of other things, divorce, financial, whatever it may be that you're struggling with, because trauma and stress can also cause cancer. You know what I mean? It's like you're poisoning the body. And if we don't know how to cope with problems, then that can lead to sickness and disease, not just cancer, but diabetes and all these other things that come, entail. So this is why I decided, you know what? I'm going to call this cancer void, because there's such a void when it comes to cancer. And we need to start talking about it so that we can help other people. Because you're right. What happens is when a person is giving, especially a terminal diagnosis, to the day,
Mhm.
Most of the time, that's all they last because it's already embedded in the mind.
Right.
It's
It
true.
it it's the news when it's given, and depending on the practitioner, I'm not going to say they're all like that, but the news feels like you're giving your like if you were in a courtroom and you were giving the date of your death sentence,
Correct.
um, and and then everything falls backwards from that. So if you've
Yes.
said a year or two a year, then all of a sudden you've got a date in mind, and then all of a sudden you're planning your life backwards from that, right?
Correct.
And you talked about faith. We just we're still going through COVID, and we had an opportunity last year, or well, not an opportunity, a moment where it probably wasn't the best situation for us to be with dad or with our dad. It was actually we lost either my wife's dad due to it, and we traveled and we went, and it probably wasn't the best opportunity, but that literally was sitting down in a stool in his kitchen and said, sometimes we just have to have faith about what we're doing here. We didn't go for a party. We didn't go for we went to do what was the last act, humanly possible here on earth. And so I really like that you said that, because that, during the COVID times we've lived with that. I live with that sentence a lot.
Yes. Well, you know what, Javier? I tell people all the time, I'm not about religion per se. I don't care what religion anybody chooses to have, as long as they believe in something bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Because if they don't have faith to begin with, then how are you supposed to believe in a miracle or in something that, is going to be even bigger? Because I believe that when it comes to healing, it's mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
If you're lacking one of the three, then your body is not going to be able to heal itself. When I was given my diagnosis back in 2014 and they told me terminal, my son was 16 years old. That was my baby. And they told me that I would not see him graduate high school. Well, Javier, not only did I see him graduate high school, I saw him graduate college, and I've seen him become a pro football player. I've been able to see him play his first pro game. And for me, to live and just sit back and watch this unveil before my eyes, I can't help but thank God for every day that he gives me, for another blessing. Because truly, I think that people in general, even me before 2014, I lived life like everybody else did. We know, life and death, but we kind of take life for granted. And in between that, you're chasing success and things of this world. And when all that was taken from me, like in your situation, your mom, it was going to be final. None of what anything and anyone had mattered.
Right.
It was
Right.
about spending that precious time, whatever you were given, with your loved one.
Yes. Yeah. And to piggyback off my brother's comment with my dad, and actually your comments too, right? About having faith. I always tell my kids, your faith is not going to be the same as my faith. Like I'm not asking you to believe and do the things and even pray the way I pray. We all pray differently. We do, but have some kind of faith. That because then you're not going to believe in anything, right? No matter what happens or why you try to believe anything. But another thing I wanted to comment about my dad, he is probably an excellent example as to how to manage stress.
Wow.
My dad, and he's been through a lot. Most recently with my mom, right?
Yeah.
But
He's like a Jedi.
But my dad, man, like he's probably the healthiest of all three of us, right? I mean, my sister's done a pretty good job, and my brother and I are starting to get on the ball again. But he's very healthy. He's very active. He still go out and exercise, things like that. And with everything he's been hit, I can't. I'm like, man, how do you look at him? He doesn't look 70, whatever age he is. He looks like he's 40. It's incredible.
Right.
But stress, not managing problems, has a lot to do with it.
Of course. And it's the way we deal with our situations and our life stresses and whatever comes our way. Javier grew up with me and my sister. We go back many, many years. In fact, Javier went to my house when we were younger and we used to play pool at my house
Mm-hmm.
because we had a pool table.
Yep.
So Javier knows my parents very well.
Mm-hmm.
There was, not only did I go through having my diagnosis, but after 40 years, think of this, after 40 years of my parents being my parents, in
Mm-hmm.
2016, when I was sent home to hospice, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I was sent home to hospice. I was in a really bad state.
Mm-hmm.
My dad and my mom got divorced, but my dad, even to this day, it's been since 2016, my dad has not spoken to any one of us. So it's insane how you think, wow, this is your parent. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
And a child at that. And yet how for me it was really difficult in 2016 to let go of anger, let
Yeah.
go of why and how, and it was kind of like an umbilical cord constantly feeding. And I was like, you know what, enough. One day, I kid you not, guys, one day I was, I pray and I'm very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
I Within my journey I've gotten closer, of course, to God. And one day, out of the blues, I remember I was feeling at one of my lowest points,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't understand. And I was like, Lord, but why? How can my father do this?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I literally heard a voice from above, and he said, my child, this is your earthly father. He
Mhm.
makes mistakes just like anybody else. You have to remember that he is human. I am your heavenly father.
Mm-hmm.
And he reminded me that I have something that no one can take from me. And the love that he gave me was so much more that I didn't feel that emptiness of my father anymore. And I
Yeah.
was able to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica, let's I'm gonna quarterback this thing to get into the details. I really feel it's so necessary to get into to give this a heartbeat for our viewers.
Yes.
They understand what's going on here, but I'm gonna read. We prepared here a little part from your the Amazon brief about your book. When you received your diagnosis. So I'm just
And
gonna read it because this was
yep.
written by you.
Yes.
And while you do that, if you do the camera trick, I'll put on the cover on
Yeah.
there.
Yep. Absolutely. So single mom had found a pea-sized bump on the side of the breast one night while getting ready for bed, and that week went to see a doctor for her first mammogram and biopsy. 3 weeks later, the bump was the size of a lemon. After 14 rounds of chemotherapy and surgery, an infection landed Jessica back in the hospital. Emergency surgery was soon followed by her second cancer diagnosis, this time in the lungs. There was no question her cancer was aggressive. They told me the average growth rate of cancer is 12 to 25%, and mine has grown at a rate of 87%, said Jessica. They gave me an average lifespan of a year with chemo. So Jessica, walk us through this process. Just kind of what I read, letter, to show our viewers what, just give it color.
Yes. Again, at the beginning, I felt no pain. I remember I was in bed, and for whatever reason, I just happened to do like a breast check for whatever reason. And when I felt the lump, it was like kind of one of those things where I was like, is it? Nah, maybe not. Maybe it's just me. And a week later, like literally, I felt the lump growing. No pain. There was nothing other than it started to change size. And I knew, oh my gosh, my heart started racing. And you just know when there's something wrong,
Mhm.
but I never knew how bad. When I went and they did a biopsy, and then they told me, you know what, they did the breast surgery, and then I got an infection. They had to do a second surgery, and then the doctor came in and said, Ms. Bustamante, unfortunately, we see something in the lungs, and we're gonna have to do another biopsy. I knew there was nothing in the lungs. I'm like, what else could it be? Of course, they did the biopsy. They came back and they said, unfortunately, it is cancer. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, Ms. Bustamante, you just went from a stage 2 to a stage 4, meaning you won't be in remission. You are only fighting for quality of life. When they gave me my timeline, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I got angry. That was my attitude. I looked at, in fact, I fired that oncologist. Yeah. I was like, number one, you don't know me. Number two, how dare you tell me how long I have to live when you are not God, you don't know my life, and you don't know what I'm capable of. So I knew that I was in for a battle. I just didn't know how aggressive or how bad or how extreme or how hard it would be. And once I started chemotherapy, that's when you start to feel, oh my goodness, the body, and it becomes real. And and I knew, I was like, oh my goodness, but I started to research, and I was like, no, this is unacceptable. I am going to fight for every day. I was 39 years old when I got diagnosed. Right. I wasn't even 40 yet, and I had my whole life planned out. And I thought, okay, if this is going to take my life, and I mean the life I had planned for myself, you know what? There's got to be another reason, and there's got to be another purpose, and I'm going to prove to beat the odds. Right. 7 years later, we're talking today. Yes, I am still battling, but you're looking at me, you're seeing me. The quality of life that I've had being a terminal patient, I'll be honest with you guys, has been amazing. Comparison to other patients.
Yeah, Jessica, real quick, when that oncologist told you, did it feel like a battle not only against the not invisible, but against the disease, but also against the system?
Absolutely.
Where somebody dictated, it felt like a judge, right? And the gavel fell on the.
You know what, Javier? I'll be honest, these last 7 years have been a battle still against the system. That's never changed.
Yeah. And I always hate getting into it, because I always get very passionate when people start talking and I start talking about the system.
Yeah.
Because there was so many things that we saw with my mom that it irritates the heck out of you. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about as I'm listening to you is the remission part of cancer, right?
Right.
So my mom, you heard it 3.5 times. So I want to say I always say half, because the last time they told her she was in remission, she actually wasn't, because the doctor told her that, she didn't have any tumors, but that she still had cancer cells in her body. Right.
Okay.
And the doctor told her, I'm sorry, Miss Nájera, but there's nothing we can do about those cancer cells. Those are going to be forever. And you just got to take these pills to make sure that they never turn into cancer. First of all, that made no sense to me, but I'm not a doctor.
Correct.
But logically speaking, I was like, you still have cancer, right? You're not in remission, but it was very hard to the one thing that was very difficult was to see the doctor say remission, but then there was really no plan. You know what the plan was? Come see me in 6 months, right? So what do we do in the interim while you're in remission? That's where things like the things you're doing come into play.
Correct. And this is what I know, this is going to be a very strong statement I'm about to say, but this is why I need to talk to people, because a lot of people are misled on what they're told. Even if you have stage 1, 2, or 3, okay? Stage 1, 2, or 3, you can beat the odds and, as they say, go into remission. Stage 4, you're considered terminal. However, I can't stand the word remission, because people don't know what to do after they've done their treatments. What happens next? Again, they go back to their bad habits, and it is completely wrong. You will never be in remission unless you change your life. What I'm going to say is, for people who have woken up cancer or have been through a cancer diagnosis, even if you are in remission, do not play it safe, because with time, if you go back to your bad habits, then you will wake up cancer again. Once you woke it up, you will never go back to the person you were before. And they do not tell you that. Your job is to learn how to change your life, change your environment, change your eating, change your stress, change whatever it is that was around you that made you sick in the first place. So let me give you an example. 90% of cancer patients, only 10% is genetically positive, meaning 10%, whether they like it or not, cancer will come. What does that mean for the other 90% that got cancer, like myself, that was negative? That means that there's something we are doing in our environment, in our life, that woke up cancer. But the doctors don't want you to know that.
Yeah, it's easier to say it came from genetics, right?
Right.
Yep. Jessica,
Correct.
you've used the word habits more than once since we started. And I think that's really, really important because one or two things can happen with news like you got, or even if it's not that, dire, so to speak. But what a lot of people are not willing to do or don't know how to do is those habits. So myself, I mean, to a much lower level, I'm on we are really watching what we're eating now. We're really, changing that. My brother mentioned it, exercise and things like that. What how do you just go from, okay, you've got this, vision of what your life is, and
Right.
you're killing it out there, because I saw you on the stage, I saw you, with the companies you represented and speaking and all that, and all of a sudden turning it around and, okay, this is my new normal now.
Right.
Speak to the people about how you mentally conquer that.
Okay. So prior to 2014, I was a salon owner. I was working long hours. I was known to be a colorist. So I was doing between 8 to 10 colors a day in customers. If there was no time for me to eat lunch, I wouldn't eat lunch. I always put myself last and the customers first. We as people in general kind of, we do that. I was a single mom. So by the time I got off work, I was exhausted. What's easier to do? Go through a drive-through, pick up something easy, get home, not have a mess. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't take care of myself. I did not realize that these bad habits would eventually catch up to us. Now, I also went to a genetics doctor. The genetics doctor told me the number 3 top professions for cancer. Number 3 is hairdressers. Why? Because of all the chemicals. As a colorist, that's all I was doing for 28 years.
Wow.
Jessica, we have a comment, actually a couple of comments from the same person. And literally the question is, why wait for cancer diagnosis, and for that matter, other conditions, diseases, to adopt a healthy lifestyle?
Correct. And that's what I tell people all the time. If I could be that one person to help you prevent things from coming, then I want to be that girl. I wish that I had a mentor like me to have taught me. But the fact that I'm in my situation, you know what? God still has me here for a reason. And that's why I come out to try to help people get on the right track, which means you need to put yourself first. Make yourself a priority. You need to have a healthy breakfast, lunch, dinner. there are three things that I'm going to tell you to steer away from, whether you have cancer or you don't. That is super bad for the gut, because if we don't take care of the gut, it is the engine to the body. Sicknesses and diseases will come from there. When it comes to nutrition, the three things you need to steer away from: sugar. Man-made sugar is not the same as fruits, okay? Fruits comes from natural earth. That is very different type of sugar than man-made sugar. Your number two that is just as bad as sugar that feeds cancer: dairy. Everything dairy. I do nothing in milk, cheese, cottage cheese, ice cream, yogurt, sour cream, nothing. Stay away from dairy. It is horrible for the body. And if you have cancer, it will feed your cancer. Number three, carbs. You guys basically get off flour, cakes, tortillas de harina, flour, anything that is flour, get away. You're better off with corn tortillas. Just saying.
So in the spirit of your recommendations here, the same viewer who posted the other question, he also put heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and some cancers are mostly preventable. So what you just mentioned to steer away from, I mean, what does that cost too? Right.
And you know what's funny is that even though I deal with cancer patients a lot, I deal with all sorts of patients, from diabetics, rheumatoid arthritis, you name it. They come to me and they're like, Jessica, where do I start? Because when you don't feel good, you know what I mean? It's not a life. People want to live a quality life. If you're not living a quality life and you're sick all the time or in pain all the time, then who wants to live?
Right.
That's not a way to go. So for me, this is where now I'm gonna be honest. I moved to Denver, Colorado, and this is where this is gonna get, really intense, because I am a pro advocate when it comes to cannabis. I am thank God, I am in a legal state. But when I was in El Paso, in Texas, I could have gone to jail for healing myself, and yet it's proven and been proven to work. Yet nobody talks about it. Nobody, wants to look at cannabis as a healing agent or study it. This is why I get so frustrated with all these foundations that say, money for a cure for science or medical. No, we're not giving it back to labs. Let's put the money where really true science needs to be, so that we can get these people feeling better.
Right.
I don't smoke marijuana or cannabis, however you want to put it, because I have lung cancer. So everything I do is in oil form. Now, I also educate people when it comes to cannabis, because I tell them, look, if you're, eating or ingesting the wrong thing, then it's not going to be something that's going to help you. For example, I can't do cookies and brownies. Why? Because cancer feeds on sugar. Yes. That's why I choose oils, But let's say PTSD. For someone who has high anxiety or, full-blown depression, you don't want a plant, cannabis, that is a sativa per se, because that's going to give you more anxiety. You want something that's going to be an indica, something that's going to be a low, to balance your body. If you don't know what you're purchasing and you go to a dispensary and it's like a candy store and you just say, I want this, and you try it and you say, oh my God, I just hate it the way I felt. Well, are you doing, it's like penicillin. Yeah. Are you doing the right regimen for you? See, people don't talk about it. And this is why I need to educate people.
Yep. I'm gonna backtrack just a little step. You know what I think of, Jessica, when we think of diet. You don't know this, but my favorite animal in the entire world is a bull, and then the shark and all that. But I think of bulls and horses because they're such muscular, majestic creatures, right? That we share the earth with. What do those guys eat? They eat water, oats, hay, and if they're lucky, they get a few apples and that sort of thing here and there, carrots, whatever. They don't eat any of the stuff that we eat, and they're just the most powerful, athletic, at least on the earth. I mean, that sounds silly, but I really do think about that when we talk about diets, because they eat, just to give it a simple term, they eat grass and water and a few fruits here and there. But if you see them, they're not, So to your point about diet and to your point about what you should give up,
Right.
and unfortunately, we just live in a country in a world that the other stuff is just
It's just better.
Yeah, it's just better. Jessica, one quick question from our producer Israel.
Sure.
Specifically, what other, like we talked about dairy, but what about like oat milk or what I call the Rolex milk? My daughters drink almond milk. Is that any
Yes.
different? Is that any better?
Absolutely. That's what I tell people. You need to learn what to alternate when you're cooking or for your foods. For example, almond milk, cashew milk, coconut milk would be your alternates for milk. So I no longer do dairy. Those three would be my choice. Let's say potatoes. I do know brown potatoes are a very bad carb. Your red potatoes are a good carb. Your body knows how to process it. When it comes to butter, you don't want to do margarines. Margarines clog the body. It's the same thing as your oils. You don't want canola oil. You don't want all these vegetable oils. It's clogging your arteries. You want natural, what your body can process. Olive oil, avocado oil, sesame seed or grape seed oil. Any of those oils, your body knows what to do with it, and it can flush the body out. Because we don't know what we are doing, we ourselves are causing our body to get clogged, just like a car with no service, no oil change, and eventually our body goes kapoosh. And that's why sicknesses and diseases come.
Jessica, I got to say before we continue that I absolutely love your energy. You're making this a whole lot easier for us because obviously I thought I could prepare myself. I didn't know how I was going to react to this topic today, right? But you're amazing. I really, really love and appreciate your energy when it comes to a very difficult topic like cancer. I'm gonna continue reading a piece from your book, Jessica, here, just so that we can continue talking a little bit more about some of the things that you went through. So let me see here. All right, so Jessica pursued additional ammunition for her fight and changed her lifestyle. In 2015, she was told she was in remission and started her new lease on life. Just 1 year later, though, cancer came back, and this time so strong, it robbed her from her voice and ability to swallow. When I saw the x-rays, there were tumors everywhere, she recalled. The doctor told me to go home because I wasn't going to make it through chemo. Her diagnosis of bone cancer was so grim, she was placed in hospice. Jessica endured 6 rounds of chemo and again resorted to non-traditional treatment methods and enhanced her therapy. She stopped traditional treatment in 2016 and attributes her survival to her strong faith and the decision to change her life. So, Jessica, one of the things from there. So my mom also opted for hospice at the end. So she did chemotherapy sessions, and then it wasn't doing much. The body got used to the chemo, right? So then they asked her to start doing radiation. She was going to do 30, I believe it was about 34 or 35 sessions of radiation, and that's no walk in the park. Right. I've never experienced it, and I knock on wood, I never have to, but I've been told it's the worst your body can go through. Yeah. So she went through 12 sessions, then she called it a day. She talked to us and she talked to her doctor and she said, I'm done. I no longer want to do this. And then that's when she made the decision to go to hospice. And when you hear hospice, truthfully, you hear death, right? You're like,
Correct.
that's it, right?
Correct.
But I do want to tell you though that my mom made it out of hospice one time. She got better within a few days. I think it's like a week in hospice. She got up, she started walking again, she started eating again. She came back home. And I'm going to tell you, she came back home for her birthday so that she could be with us for her birthday and that she could be with my brother. Her whole family came over. We celebrated birthday. And then she saw the whole family. She saw family members that she hadn't seen in a very long time.
Yeah.
They spent hours and nights and days and just talking to her. I want to say I've had the privilege to go to many places around, like I've been to Italy and stuff like that, but I've never enjoyed a moment like I enjoyed that. Like I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than I was that week with my mom and what she was doing. I couldn't believe it. The hospice people couldn't believe it. They were like, wow. Yeah. So now that I'm listening to you and your story, I can see how you can have the power to decide.
Yes. Well, when I was sent to hospice in 2016, I literally was choking on water. I lost my voice for months. I couldn't get a word out. I wasn't eating anymore. When I looked at the x-ray, I was in shock. I was like, that's my body? Like everywhere in that x-ray was black. And I thought, oh my God. This can't be. The doctor told me, Ms. Bustamante, you're not going to make it through chemo. You need to go home, and prepare. And I was like, oh my goodness, like, no. Again, it made me furious. And I knew, I'm not going to lie to you, I knew I was in a very critical state. I knew that I was weeks away from death. I knew it. And I got hit with chemo, but then I also started to do a lot more on my end. Like I changed my water. I went full force on, vegetarian. I started, of course, increasing my cannabis levels, hormone therapy. I did oxygen chambers. I did infrared saunas. I was doing IVs. I did stem cells. You name it, guys, I did it. And I'm telling you that I'm that one girl that I told not my oncologist, but another doctor that I had. She's more of an alternative doctor. And I told her, I am donating my body because at this point, I'm like, look, doctor, I want quality of life. And if there's something that you can do different that maybe could work and help somebody else out there, then this is what I want to do. That's why I tell you guys, here's a girl who went through life or death and was willing to just, whether it went wrong or right, could have been death. I was willing to take that chance for someone else. And I'm still here today saying there is hope, there is faith, and you can beat the odds. But we need to talk about the things that will make a difference. When it comes to healing, the more natural that you go, the more your body has a chance to heal itself. The more meds you put in the body, the more it's going to eventually shut down.
Yep.
When they are running those tests, they're checking your white blood count, your red blood count, your liver enzymes. Why? Because of how strong these, I hate to say it, it's poison to the body. Yep. Because it's killing good and bad cells. That's why your body is getting dropped. Yep. And it's up into the point where your body can't handle it. And I'm going to be honest, your body becomes immune to the chemotherapy, and then it doesn't work anymore. Then they say there's nothing more we can do. Therefore, we die anyways. And how, I hate to say it, guys, but for me, that's a tortured death.
Hmm.
That's not a way of life or a quality of life.
No, you remind me of you remind me just about every great warrior we can ever think of. It's not going to be lay down and okay, just end it, please. It's going to be a fight, and it's not going to be. It may not be pretty, it may not be normal, it may not be standard, but oh, you got a fight coming to you.
Oh yeah.
One of the things I can tell you, you just mentioned. My our oldest daughter Tana was diagnosed with diabetes type 1. It's almost 5 years ago. But one of the things she did with the COVID vaccine, which unfortunately became political, but she had the opportunity to be one of the first to receive it because she works in hospital systems now, and so and because of her condition. But one of the things she told me that I will never forget is that she is paying it forward because sometime many years ago, somebody took insulin for the first time to give those in the future the opportunity, if you had this condition, to be able to live a fairly, pretty normal life, just, with because she has to do the job of her pancreas manually, basically. So she told me, I'm paying it forward because if this helps someone ahead of me, this is what something did behind me. And I will never, ever forget that. And that's kind of what you're doing now.
Right. Well, you know what, Javier? Let me give you another eye opener. One of the things that is not part of oncology, that I opted to do, that I've been vocal about, but again, a lot of people don't know, is hormone therapy. Because I have bone cancer, I have breast, lung, bone, esophagus, abdomen, and liver cancer. Okay. And you're looking at me, and every time I go to oncology, I look better than patients who are stage 1, 2, or 3. You know what I mean? And I'm like, or in their first rounds. I've been going at this at 7 years. And I've had my talks with these oncologists because I'm like, look, you guys I'm hormone positive. That means my hormones are feeding the cancer. I can't have estrogen. That is my female hormone. So they made me have a hysterectomy. I don't have, hormones. I was being suppressed with chemotherapy, and I was given, 1 year to live. So I told the doctor, look, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I can't remember anything. What's happening to me? And she was like, I told her, I said, I feel like I'm dying a slow death. And she said, you are. Our job is to keep you as long as we can. But Ms. Bustamante, you are dying a slow death. And I said, okay, since you know that and I know that, that's where I said, here's my body. What else can we do to help me feel better? I want quality. So she said, okay, testosterone, male hormone, is a different hormone than estrogen. And I said, okay, I'm listening. She said, I'm going to pump you with the max testosterone, male hormones, that I can insert in your body. Now, there's 3 ways to insert hormones. There's a cream, there's an injection, and then there's pellets that they cut you open and insert. I do pellets, the extreme. So they put in the extreme testosterone with an anastrozole, which is a blocker to not allow testosterone to convert to estrogen. They insert that in my body. Would you believe? Oh my goodness. Guys, I cannot express how much my body felt amazing. And that's why I look solid.
Yeah. I think we can request that you get an honorary doctoral medical degree.
Absolutely.
I know.
Just directly. Yeah.
Jessica, we've really wanted to make sure people know about your book. We use the introduction you have on Amazon, and then we put the book jacket on there. So I want to get into that. I consider myself a writer, and I still haven't written any book. I've written a column here and there, mostly sports stuff. But tell us about that process. How do you just start writing a book? I mean, obviously we know what it's about. It's titled Cancer Void. But talk to us a little bit about how that all happened.
Well, for many years, I've been, of course, on this journey, and I've always said, I want to write a book because there's so many people out there who don't know about these things, or again, don't know where to start, or they give up on faith or hope. Let's just talk about even being a female, for example. Me doing these testosterone pellets, not only did it help my bones and help me feel stronger and have quality of life, but now with my partner sexually, it has been the most amazing experience. And let me explain, guys, when it comes to women who are going through this, their sex life is like down the toilet. There is no hormones. Like I said, it's a tortured death.
Mhm.
So a lot of women lose their relationships with their husbands, And I'm like, no, why does it have to be that way? When you're going through this, if
Mhm.
anything, you need to bond closer with your partner
Yep.
because you
Mhm.
want to be with them. You
Right.
want to be that and have that intimacy with them and still feel like a woman,
Right.
Mhm.
So that has helped and made my life, I'm not kidding you, like amazingly, I can't even say the words. I mean,
Mhm.
it's been an awesome experience.
Right.
But in saying that, I kept saying I need to write a book. I need to let women know. I talk to so many women who are losing their lives, losing, their relationships, and I'm like, they don't have to. They don't have to. The sad thing is that all this that I've done has to be paid out of pocket. Why?
Mhm.
Because the insurance won't cover it.
Of
But
course.
is it a way of life? Is it something that they can look forward to? Yes. And I pray that one day, it should be our choice as Americans on
Mhm.
what we choose the quality of life for us to be, whether we do traditional medicine or alternative medicine. If we're given a terminal diagnosis, why should we not be given the right to choose instead of, in my case, being a fugitive in Texas because
Mhm.
I was in a place where there was, not legal, and
Right.
two, all these other things I've done was never part of oncology.
Mhm.
So for me, it was
Yep.
important to get the word out. So I started researching, and I finally found a female, Andrea, who said, "You know what, Jessica? I'm a publishing company, Beverly Hills Publishing Company in in Hollywood." And she said, "Jessica, I'm willing to write your book." She's like, let's get it out there, let's get it published. That's how it got started. I did have a ghostwriter. We went back, we went forth, we went back, we went forth. And I kid you
Mhm.
not, it took me probably from start to finish about 7.5 months to finish the book.
Oh,
Now,
easily. Easily.
yeah. Now, now that I have that experience, I do, God willing, I do plan to write a second book.
Good.
And I think that because I have the experience of going through the publishing agency,
Mhm.
I would do things a little different. And I have the perfect person who is also willing to write my book. He's done
Mhm.
books before for other authors, and he's an amazing person. So I think that's who I would go with this time around,
Good.
to help me get the second book started.
Good. I'm glad. Always glad to hear anyone say of what's coming in the future. Jessica, why are we so afraid of natural or holistic things? And let me say this: we're looking at you, and you describe you know, having cancer in most of the vital organs, and
Correct.
you don't look at all like
Nope.
you've got any kind of condition or suffering or anything. Why are we so afraid to look in that world?
Because, in my opinion, Javier, I'm going to tell you, like my genetics doctor told me, unfortunately, Ms. Bustamante, there is no money in healing. And I know that's a very harsh statement. You should have seen tears run down my eyes. But I know that when it comes to money, just think of this, guys. I'm one patient, okay, one. For a 3-week supply for my chemotherapy is $14,000 every 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you imagine all the people out there who have cancer? Listen to the statistics. It will be 1 in every 3 Americans that will get cancer. Not maybe, will.
Right. And it was an intentional loaded question because I knew I had a sense that's where it was going. Unfortunately, education and medicine should have never been a for-profit institution, in my opinion. But we won't go down those weeds tonight
Yeah.
because we can really go down the weeds. Jessica, we talked about your books and we've been scrolling it. Hopefully, people will go to Amazon and get it. Maybe you'll even autograph it for them. I don't know if that's possible, but the other thing that I know you have is a podcast, and let me change
Yes.
the banner. Tell us. I went over there and I saw a lot of shows. It's the same as your same title as your book. Tell us a little bit about that and introduce people to that.
So my podcast, I decided to go ahead and, make it available for people and talk about, the subjects that people aren't discussing. And it's abroad. Everything in like natural holistic therapies, from infrared saunas, hormonal therapy, supplements that are not FDA approved, but that will reboot the immune system and help your body have that fighting chance. People don't talk about it. So when I tell people, look, I'm only going to endorse products that I myself have tried and I research everything, the science behind it before I say, you know what? I'm going to go to this product. I'm going to try it and let's see how this goes. Technology keeps evolving and it's going to keep evolving. I have faith and I know I'm a miracle walking already with my type of cancer. I am considered a stage 5, final stages. You're looking at me. Do I believe that? Absolutely not. I believe that I could still go another 10 years if that's what God wants of me. He's going to make it happen. I believe that we all have a purpose in life. I thought my purpose was, hair at one time or becoming a platform artist. Well, my choices of life wasn't God's choices. I look at life now like there was a bigger purpose for me. Me putting out my podcast and talking about those topics are out there for people to learn, to see, and open their minds that there are natural things out there. Number one, that won't have harsh side effects. 2, will make them feel better. 3, will give your body the fighting chance that it needs. And 4, will give you the quality of life that we all deserve.
Jessica's on a weekly basis, our guests come in here and there's 2 common themes that my brother always hear, right? So the first one is your biggest enemy is fear, right? When you start being afraid of, whatever topic we're talking about or what we're introducing. And then the second thing is, a lot of our guests have told us, that when you think about failure is not an option, right? Then it kind of becomes your motto every day as you wake up and you're fighting those battles.
Yes.
But what I want to add to tonight's show is, for you, failure is not an option and fear is your biggest enemy to deal with as it relates to your life, right?
Yes.
Failure is not an option because the failure, we know what it is, right? And
Right.
and fighting those battles at the highest level, right?
Yes.
Because I think when we talk, we bring our guests and we talk about business, we talk about, entrepreneurship, and we talk about, I mean, we all sorts of topics.
Right.
We've had singers, we've had artists, we've had all kinds of guests.
Yeah, I'm
But
sorry to interrupt a
yeah,
little bit. It's one thing to lose a deal. It's one thing to lose, or not make it on the final stage of a show. It's
exactly.
another thing to be facing end of life.
Yep.
Right.
And so it's very heartwarming. I mean, I know we're getting a lot of comments on the live feed. I'm going to read these to you real quick. So my respects to you, Ms. Bustamante. Absolutely right to several comments that you made about how you dealt and coped from Claudia Saavedra. We have Mr. Walter Stephen. Prevention is clearly not the strong suit for the medical establishment. Hope and Faith, again from Claudia. Lisbeth, she's definitely going to read your book. 70% of the healthcare dollars spent on preventable illnesses. Minerva, who's my wife, admirable. Dios la bendiga. And it's not. We must continue going and not be afraid. So my Claudia, she wants to mention that she has MS, and her faith always keeps her going and keeps her strong.
Yes. That's amazing. And I just want Claudia to know that even for MS, I don't know where she lives or where she's from, but I would definitely look into cannabis. Montel Williams is a very big spokesperson for MS, and he has his own line for cannabis that has helped change his life. Like I said, there are things out there that can give you hope and give you the quality of life if we just talk about the things that nobody is talking about. That's why Cancer Void exists. And as long as I'm alive, I will be that voice for many to hear.
It's, I don't know. I'm going to ask you, brother, and I'm going to look right at the camera to our viewers. And have we ever painted a better picture for problems and opportunities? What do you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And as I mute or not mute, but fade my microphone, I just keep thinking of the word preach because that's the way she brings it, and that's the way she brings it in person, and that's the way she brings it in her videos and in her everything. There is absolutely no doubt that Jessica, you are bringing the hope of what can be done when you really sit down and understand the mechanics. Let's call them the mechanics of how your body works and what is out there and what you're against. Not only the disease, but maybe the system, and the hope that many years ago you were told you weren't going to see your son's graduation, and you recently just saw him play professional football.
Yes.
On that note, just to veer a little bit about him, because that's pretty amazing. Tell us about your son. I know he played college football. He went to the combine. Tell us about that event.
Yes, I mean, he's got some big dreams. My son is, a small little guy, where he had always odds against him. He was never looked at by coaches because of his size, and, people kept saying, you can't. Just like they told me, you only have so much time, you know? And I always showed my son that no matter what, it's mind over body. And if you want it bad enough, there's nothing stopping you that you cannot not do. And he's proven it. He went to college on a full ride scholarship to Lakeland University. So he was in Wisconsin. And then he did get invited to the combine, the podium for NFL scouting. Unfortunately, he didn't make the draft, but he did get picked up by San Antonio Gunslingers, which is a indoor arena pro football league. And so from there, they can get picked up from NFL at any point. He also has his own YouTube and is doing very well at his own channel. He tries to encourage other young kids that are coming up that, to believe, have hope, have faith, and you need to put in the work, because he's such a small guy. for somebody that puts 100%, he's got to put 180%, you
Right.
know, but he knows what it takes. And
Right.
it's the same thing with cancer. You know, I'm in a terminal situation. If I want to live, and this is what I tell people, look, I know how hard it is to want to have that piece of cake, but you got to look at it like playing Russian roulette. If you put that piece of cake in your mouth, it's like pulling the trigger. Are you going to play Russian roulette? Is it worth the next day or the next memory with your loved one?
Right.
That's how strong you need to be. And that's a choice.
Yep. And that was how strong it was for mom, because like my brother described earlier, her birthday's in August, and so we basically had a Labor Day birthday celebration. We were all at their house, at her house, and then like my brother said, people just kept coming over. The one thing about mom is she was extremely private, and so we, without her permission and knowledge, we kind of opened up a group and explained what was going on at that time, and that's when people started coming over, and it was like a whole weekend full of celebration because, I also believe it was that okay, I need to hold off because this is coming, and we were all there. Not only that, but not going to get into a lot of detail, but she spoke to each one of us before her last day. She also wrote us letters, so she did all of that before she was not with us, and so that weekend was a big part of it. And I'm just going to talk a little bit about your son. A lot of people know how sports work, but to have a scholarship to play a sport in a university and to be invited into that NFL combine, however it ended up, how many of us dudes who played that sport, I'm one of them, my brother's another one, we never got anywhere near that situation. So congratulations.
That is awesome.
Him.
Thank you.
Congratulations to him. There's always opportunities. Drew Brees is one that I look at all the time. He just retired, but that guy is only about 5'10", and made a Hall of Fame career from just never ever giving up and being just absolutely always one of the best. And just like you said, if the best is 100%, well, you got to be 150 to be up there. So that
my son on May 1st, Javier, is going to play San Antonio versus El Paso in El Paso, Texas.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So mom's gonna be out there.
Of course.
Dang.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. I believe it's gonna be at the Coliseum. So everybody who's in El Paso, you know what? Go out there and represent and support these kiddos. Because you know what? I mean, just the thought of knowing that there's somebody out there who's representing El Paso, that's amazing. Not just because he's my son. Had he been anybody else's son, I'd be following him too. You know?
Correct.
Yeah, I think I think El Paso does a very good job of representing what the team is doing like super well. Once the team starts to struggle, and like UTEP, I remember the days when they were going undefeated and going to bowl games. Everybody, the Sun Bowl was packed, right?
Yeah.
But then once they started losing, then nobody goes to the Sun Bowl.
Right. I know.
Right now that my brother was talking about mom and hearing your podcast. I think I hate to say this, but my mom focused on planning her death, right?
Yeah.
Instead of her life and staying alive. And I think that's where the medical system failed her, right? To really just put it in her head that, ma'am, go home, try to spend as much time with your kids as possible, make the best life of it, because the end is coming. And when you hear that, you naturally say, okay, well, then that's it, right?
Right.
And like my brother was saying, we were shocked. Like from my mom, we never knew when it hurt, how it hurt, or where it hurt. The only one that knew was my dad. We used to find out days later. She was at the emergency room, and stuff like that. So she was very private. She never wanted us to struggle or have fear or hurt with her, right? And I think it's just, now that I'm listening to you, she did absolutely fantastic job of making sure that we were going to be okay after she left, including her funeral services, the way it was supposed to be. I mean, we had no kind of struggle. Like we literally spent 1 hour planning her funeral, her services, and everything. I mean, it was like it's all right written down on paper. This is what mom wants, and this is how it's going to happen. And then everything after that was planned to all the way down to our kids, and then which is her kids as well, and then just the letters. I mean, it was amazing. But
Yeah. Hey, one little moment. If you'll do the camera trick, I want Jessica to see what I always see her as, or maybe me. This Jessica, this was one of her chemo treatments. And you know what's amazing about this moment is, obviously she's praying, but she was probably praying for us,
Yes.
for our, well, just for us, not necessarily for her. And we actually got the opportunity to make this into a big, portrait for Dad. And that's what, when you come in his house, that's what you see for the first time. But just a little moment. That's what she was.
Wow. That's amazing. And she sounds like an amazing woman who, I mean, obviously, she battled, her fears, her diagnosis, but at the same time, she was very courageous. Even me, I don't want my kids to go through, having to worry either. My partner already knows what it is that I would want. And I want everybody, that knows me not to cry, but, if and when that time would come, celebrate. Because if anything, life is so precious and so
Yes.
short that I want people to know how, the fight that I had trying to live and live every day, not live my life as if I was dying.
Mhm.
That's
That's
what
right.
it's about.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Live
I-
life as if you're living. It's really day to day, because your battle is anything more than any of us can imagine. But even with the small battles, my message now is, it's really day to day. It's
Yeah.
really day to day. We made today. Wednesdays are a great day for us because we get to do this, or we try to do this every Wednesday. So, and then there's other stuff that, So the point is, you wake up tomorrow, you're there, and let's make a day of it.
Yeah. And even though you guys weren't the ones going through it and it was your mom, I'm sure it's impacted your lives to now know how precious, your family, your intimate family means to you. You know what I mean? A lot of people,
Yes.
don't. They're living every day just like, oh, I'll see mom next week, or, whatever. Or,
Mhm.
you don't know if you have tomorrow.
Right.
To me, when people ask me, Jessica, is cancer a blessing or is it a curse? Well, technically it could be both. But in my situation, because I feel like even if that time were to come with cancer, that cancer takes me one day, I still don't believe that cancer won. Cancer didn't beat me because I didn't allow it to take my spirit. I am in control of what my life is. And I'm going to choose, how I live on the daily, what my memories and my picture moments are. Nobody's going to take that from me, So I live passionately every day. Every day I'm able to pick up the phone and talk to both of my boys. Chris, being that he's in San Antonio, obviously playing ball. I have Danny, who's my older son, who's in Memphis, Tennessee. Danny does all my podcasting. He's my tech savvy guy. And you know what?
You're a producer.
Yes, I could not be prouder of both my boys. And I can tell you, as speaking from a mother, to both of you, to all of you, is that I'm sure that she, like myself, we are just proud to know that we raised good children, good young men, and you guys, with good morals, and you have your families and who you are, just made her, the happiest mother she could have ever been. And that's how I live as well. When your children are okay, you're okay. When your children are not okay, then you're not okay.
Correct.
Correct. And you know what? I talked a little bit about it at the beginning of this podcast when we introduced the show, Jessica, and we dedicate this show to her, to my mom, because I know, when my brother and I embarked in this journey, we talked about man, that was really hard, because we said how we wish mom, but we know she's watching and she's listening to us, right? Doing this
Absolutely.
and trying to help others, through our viewership, to hopefully any little golden nugget anybody can grab, hopefully, can be as strong to make a change in their lives. I know it's made a big change in my life, the way I think, especially with the things I was mentioning, with like mental health and the way
Yes.
you perceive things, and your
Yes.
perspectives, of your kids, of your parents, of your siblings. I'm not nowhere near where I used to be, and I feel I've gained some ground. Yesterday, one thing I do want to mention before we hit the end of the show is, so yesterday we got the unfortunate news that one of my wife's uncle passed away from cancer. He was diagnosed, I want to say maybe 3 weeks ago. And he left us really fast. He was in his 90s, so he didn't have a fighting chance. But the guy lived an unbelievable life. He's from Tucson, Arizona, and when we'd go and visit, oh man, all he dedicated so much time to making us laugh and telling his stories, and he was just a great guy overall. So I also want to dedicate this time to him, my wife, her family, that we have everybody on our prayers.
Beautiful. Thank you. Absolutely. And I know they're
yeah.
watching.
Absolutely. We always love to crystallize at the end, Jessica. I think we can be here all night talking about this very important message. It's not just about cancer. It's about overall health and what you can do. The mind is so powerful. And I think there's so many things you can do and go through if you just focus on the right things. But we all need help for that. We can't do it alone, because we're not the experts of our bodies.
Correct.
We do listen to our bodies, and sometimes we don't. But I think that when we hear it from the testimonies like yourself, it goes a very long way. In this segment of our show, we always allow our guests to crystallize, just from everything that you've talked to us about today, and just please spread the message for us of your journey, through this moment of crystallize, through your natural ways of dealing, holistic ways of dealing with your health. You have many more than a couple of points to crystallize. We realize that, but if you could just, tell us, this is your stage, this is your moment. What do you want to leave out there for our audience?
I'll be honest. I think for me, I want to just give hope to the people who are not given hope. Whether you are in a terminal state, just know that you can beat the odds. You can have that quality of life, that you so well deserve. We just need to start talking about the things that can make a difference. By following my story and following my YouTube and sharing, the messages, you're helping somebody out there that doesn't even know where to start. That's the key. That's where we need to start, is where do we start talking about it? Most terminal patients, when you get a diagnosis, they isolate themselves. They go into, the home, and they rather stay away from everybody because they don't want people to see them change. They don't even know how to take the news themselves. For me, I got angry and I was like, no, I'm going to put my life out there from day one, because you know what? I want people to know that they too can be strong. They too need to start stepping up and, talking about the things that made a difference from them. The only way we're going to learn is if we learn from each other, So these, whether it's my book, my podcast, these topics need to be discussed. Now, for the ones going through cancer or have, are in remission, have woken up cancer, please, I implore you guys to definitely do your education, do your homework, and don't fall back into bad habits. You need to know how to change your full life so that you can continue to beat the odds and live till you're 90. I tell people all the time, it's not about how long we live, because of course I want to live till I'm 100. But if that's not the case, okay, what counts is not how long I live, but what am I doing with the life that I am living right now? What are
Preach.
you doing to make a difference?
I'm gonna
You
say
know?
it. Preach. Dang.
Preach.
Yep.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
What are you doing? And I tell people, I know it's harsh, but I gotta put it out there. At your funerals, on your obituaries, it's not gonna say where you graduated, how much money you had in your bank account, all your success. It's
Nope.
gonna say who you were, what did you do, and what did you leave behind. And that is what I want. I want to touch people's lives and know that I made a difference in this world, because in the next world is going to be eternal. And I can tell you that because I've been on this journey and because I've been so close to death, I've been lucky enough to have a little glimpse of what the other side looks like. And I can tell you, oh my goodness, not only was it heartfelt, but the love that is on the other side, it will drop you to your knees. I mean, it's amazing. And your families and your loved ones are in a good place. The ones that need help are the ones that are here. And
Yes.
we need to start living life, making your family members, make them proud, make your life proud, make your children proud. Don't have regrets. Life is too short.
Jessica, right now that you were talking about the obituary, I always talk about the dash. So the dash is on your tombstone. You're gonna have your date of birth, and then
Correct.
you're gonna have your date of death, your DOD, right? In the middle is a little tiny dash that's gonna define your whole life.
Correct.
So what are you gonna make out of that dash? That's what I call it, the dash.
That's right. That's right. So I love this segment, guys. I really do. And I think so many people, I think, are going to be impacted by this, because even though we touch different subjects, there's subjects that people don't talk about, and we need to start talking about them. Not only healing for you, but also for me, for
Yep.
them,
Absolutely. Yeah, I kept wanting to scream, preach, because that's. I'm telling you, you are great. This was amazing. I'm gonna read one comment that I think personifies this. It says, fortunately, there are voices like Jessica's helping in to fill the gaps, and as we're talking about, medicine and system and things like that. So that, I think, personifies what we wanted to accomplish today. You definitely, as they say today, crushed it, killed it, whatever you want to say about that. Jessica, thank you so much. Thank you for not only speaking about a subject that's very hard. You look wonderful. No one would ever guess, not anyone watching, everything you're going through. Thank you. I know we'll see each other again.
Thank you. And honestly, guys, I give all glory to God, because He's the only one that, gives me the strength and gives me the courage to continue and still keep putting my message out there. And thanks to you, you are a part of that as well. So together we all can make a change.
Absolutely believe it. And Jessica, I also want to thank you for spending this time. Time is one of the most valuable treasures we have in life, and how we use our time is what really matters. And I want to thank all the audience that were with us. Very interactive. You might have broken the record of viewership, live viewership.
I know she did.
I think she did. But that was incredible, and I'm very, very excited for this episode of our podcast. Jessica, I want to share that we're getting very close to our 1 year anniversary.
Nice.
2 weeks ago, I had the fortune to go to Arlington. My daughter and I went to Arlington, and so my brother and I did the podcast together for the first time ever. We started remotely because of COVID reasons, but it was super inspiring because we went to his office the night before, and we started like playing with different things because we never done it together, right?
Well, you got to know it's never good enough for me.
Right.
The audio, the technology, so it's my fault.
So the point I want to make is that when you're inspired to do something, there shouldn't be any barriers. You have to break all barriers, and in your case, I want to say it again. It really wasn't an option because that meant your life. So thank you for all our viewers that have been with us tonight, and thank you, Jessica. I hope this really created that golden nugget we look for every week.
Absolutely, and thank you guys for having me as well.
Thank you. And with that, for my brother, my name is Javier, and we are Problems.
And for my brother, my name is Jorge, and Opportunities. Thank you, everybody.